thanks for coming for my podcast, Dr. Karin. We just been doing this, so just treat it as, we're chatting among friends, right? So first and foremost, thank you for coming down to Singapore and welcome to Singapore. I think KBank has been a partner with us discussing about cross-border payment for quite a while, and very happy that we actually got this thing rolled out in productions and announce it on the multi-phase approach that we're going to do as part of Bloom coming up next year. But I think a lot of the audience are probably more regional, and some of my folks around have been asking us more about KBank itself. Well, KBank has been named the Thailand Best Bank again. What do you think is the core recipe for your success? And I would love to have the viewer learn more about what KBank does.
Yeah, for KBank, I think we are 80 years old back, actually this year, 80 years old. And then we are one of the top 3 banks in Thailand. And then we focusing on digitalization, digital banking. We are number 1 in digital payment transactions in Thailand. And for us, I'm not sure we are number 1 or not on many aspects, but only on digital payment, I think we do this, or we do our business based on 3 principles.
Yeah.
The first one is customer centricity. We're looking at customers, sub-segment them, and then we see what are their true needs of that and how can we facilitate them, especially in the digital world or in the upcoming new way of working, new way of living on digital world. Secondly is on the cutting edge technology. For cutting edge technologies mean that we would like to see what are the available technologies that are good enough for us to use as financial services. And then for sure for banks, we talk about blockchain technologies and so on, right? And then lastly, we're looking for the right partners. Without the right partners, the compliance partners, the one with the same visions, and then we share the same goals, we cannot achieve anything. So we think that these are the 3 ingredients of us.
Actually, just to touch on that, right? I think it's very, very impressive for 80 years old bank to be embracing some of the frontier technology like blockchain and stuff. And that's why actually it brings us to a lot of interest that, how did even KBank start on this journey? Because I think I visited you guys in Thailand before, and I see you have Project Oblix and a lot of Q-Money apps and a lot of different small project innovation on the blockchain frontiers. And now KBank has become one of the partners in Project Bloom, which is the MES evolution of Project Orchid into the next phase itself. So what do you think is the strategic value that's building in this direct payment link which Singapore offers us in terms of KBank?
I think on blockchain transaction, it is made payment and settlement very close to zero time gap. In the past, people can make payment and the settlement will be done later. Maybe, for example, like in the Thai local payment loops, it will be done every hour in Thai bahts. And then for the foreign transaction, it can be done, depends on the transaction loop. It can be done in at the end of the days or maybe T+2 or so on, depend on the channel that they use. So the payment and the settlements using blockchain can be reduced to be seconds. That is the technology themselves. Secondly, I think we talk about why banks need to do it. It's not just bank, but I think it's for the regulated entities. Because it's financial transaction, people would like to make sure that their transactions are done by or help service by a trusted person. It can be banks, it can be StraitsX that is part of the license of MAS. So these are the key ingredients. It's just not just about the technologies, it's about the right person, right entities to cooperate together. And lastly, it's the regulator. Think about this, again, I talked about this yesterday, that imagine like not money but people. We fly from Singapore to Bangkok. The airplane itself is better, faster, but the immigration maybe getting out of Singapore or getting into Bangkok. Imagine if it's still the same as 20 years ago. If it's not faster. So we need the KYCs, the regulation, the process before things get authorized to be faster as well. So we require the right technologies, the right partner, regulated partners, and also the regulators. That's why we work together, become part of the Bloom project, because we wanted to make sure that MAS and Bank of Thailand see the potential and will help us, I would say, facilitate the right regulations such that it will be benefit for both countries.
Yes, I especially like what you talked about yesterday, and that we all were on the same panel talking about the fact that we have been trying to drive for this cool concept that everyone want to be a traveler, want to be able to pay like a local. Right? The concept, like when you mentioned, thinking airplanes are the new technology that enable that to do. But because of the toolings that have been still done in the old world, it's actually very difficult that even though you pay like a local, but to the merchant using the old stack itself, the settlement is not really like a local, right? Which is taking, cross-border, take a couple of days in terms of delay, which is using additional costs itself. And one of the beauty that we have done in our partnership itself is that we are seeing right now that the merchants actually sees this as domestic payment. They do not see a difference between how a domestic persons, local, pay and how a foreigner traveling with the QMoney app or the KBank apps come to Singapore pay itself. They get it at the same settlement time. They get it at the same cost to them. That is a big game changer here. But I think that's the first part. But what do you think is the next biggest new opportunity for KBank now that you see opening up for banking to be embracing blockchain technology? I think cross-border payment is just a starting point, but I think there's so much more. I would love to hear your view on this.
I think we call it the three pathways of future of finance. Think about traditional banking. The first pathway is you go deeper. How can you service the smaller size customer better? Imagine about why we do the digital banking mobile apps in the past. That's why we can serve the smaller size customers, the retail customer better, cheaper, or serving the SMEs. The other pathway is on wider. How can we offer wider variety of products? Think about the words universal banking. We are just the agent of or in between the investor and the issuers. Talk about investment banking, talk about selling mutual funds, those kind of things. So banks can do either deeper or wider, but the future is what if we can do both? So what we foresee is we call democratizing intermediaries business. So how can the intermediary business become a bite size? For example, in Thailand, even today, if you want to issue the REIT, real estate investment trust, the size should be about $1 billion or maybe $500 million. Otherwise, it's not profitable for all.
Exactly.
But recently, we have done or issue, I would say, the project finance with the size of just less than $10 million. Less than $10 million. It's about like $7-8 million. And everybody's still profitable. We use the blockchain technologies with the new regulations that allow, in Thailand, we call the Digital Asset Act. That is called the investment token. And we have our money on chain. All together, the objective is how can we serve the smaller size customers better using new technologies and especially on intermediary business.
Yeah.
The easier word may be bite-size IB.
Bite-size IB. No, I really like that. I think this is something that we talk about it in our podcast itself. And because I'm an engineer by training, I think the concept here is very similar to digitization that have happened over the last 10 to 20 years. With digitization, we have ran out the cost of serving one customer to be unitized to almost be free, right? And with cash, which is in my case stablecoins, coming online to become digital cash on the blockchain itself, we have already solved some of the trust problem, which is inherently expensive to maintain. But now this trust can be unitized. And that enables so much more application that can be built at a fraction of the cost that you need to be buzzed, which the end result is more customers can be served. Because then the entry level is actually lower, right? Because not everyone can afford like a $10 billion REIT product, but I can buy a $100 one. So that itself can be served at the same cost of serving a 10 billion customers. I think that is a major game changer as well. But if we double-click them further itself, FX volatility has been a huge headache for everyone, right? Because now you're talking about multiple different currency stablecoin itself. And how is it looking like now for you guys? And how is the current technology you think going to address this thing?
I think it's the same. First of all, the FX market. My background, I came from the treasury of the bank.
Exactly.
Okay, from the trading floor. We foresee that because of the geopolitics today, it's been more volatile. It's not volatile throughout the year. It depends on event base.
Yes.
Which is more difficult to hedge, which is more difficult for typical merchants to handle. Banks typically we have many products like FX forward, FX option, whatever. That is the traditional one. But think about what we have done together.
Yeah.
On the merchant side, they are concerned about the timing of settlement. The rate that they're gonna get is the end of the day rate. And then a huge fee, not just about the processing fee, but the fee embedded into the FX rates. How can we use the new technology to help reduce them such that we're still in the higher volatility world, but the merchant feel that the cost of intermediaries has been reduced, such that it can compensate the higher volatilities of the rate itself. I think that's the key point that we have to tackle that. because without helping the customer gain something, we cannot make our business. I think that. And on the money owners, the tourists, whatever, how can we make sure that it's easier for them to onboard, easier for them to get and see the rate beforehand, cheaper fees, something like that. And then no need to worry about how much money I need to exchange before I travel. I can exchange the cash just a very little, and then it depends on what I spend. I use that later, something like that, or just like that.
I 100% agree. I think, again, back to what we've been discussing about digitization itself, I think another key part here that's probably unlocked with this technology is the fact that the accessibility right now is a lot easier because you're on a public blockchain with a lot of direct interaction by a lot of different players. We are creating competition, which actually help in some sense to ensure that FX rates is always harmonized, right? At the same time, because it's being digitalized, transactions can now happen at a fraction of the cost because then it can be done as smaller denominator, right? We are able to facilitate cross-border transaction of less than $10. Typically, if you want to do FX for $10 at a bank, because of the structure itself, it's just going to be inherently expensive. I think that is where a lot more exciting new frontiers is going to happen on the automating market makers, or is it decentralized exchange that I feel will contribute more to this.
And maybe to add a little bit on volatility, if you think about the daily volatility of FX, that's it high. But if you make the settlement to be less than like hourly or maybe second or minute, now the volatility has been reduced.
Exactly.
So you foresee that what will be the rate that you're going to get. And that helps the customers.
Correct, because the volatility is when you are actually in transition that you are making you worried, because actual payments finality actually already solves the volatility because you receive in the local currency itself, which is something I think our merchants really care a lot about because they don't want to be, and the cost actually really comes in on MDR is because we have to hedge that in the past because of the volatility. Mm-hmm. So that itself is now being removed with some of this new tech. So I think with that, like looking 5 years out, what do you think is the most significant changes you will see in major bank like KBank itself after adopting blockchain as an infrastructure?
I think the biggest change is you won't see the biggest change. I mean, the biggest change won't be what you see. I would say that.
Yes.
But what you won't see, it means that all the changes will be behind the scene. Anything that make customer realize that, it's a new thing, that's not a bigger change. Bigger change has to be behind the scenes such that things will be seamless.
Yes.
If you are a local Singaporean, typical person not in finance industry, you should not feel anything change, but actually it's better.
Yes.
The experience, the app that you use, whatever, will be almost the same, but it's better. I think that is a bigger change that will happen next. It means that the blockchain technologies, the Web3 wallet, many things have to be embedded behind the traditional.
Yes.
Because it will be very costly for any newcomers to, I would say, acquire new customers on the new app just for doing some particular thing. For example, on KBank mobile app, we have 23 million customers already. If you would like to create a new app for just a specific purpose, starting from the first customer, that's difficult. But how can we use that concept and embed that into our existing mobile app of 23 millions and make them better and more enjoyable on doing that? I think that's the thing that's going to happen. And the key enabler is the regulators.
Yes.
How can we make them see the potential, understand the risk and the return, and how can things can be both regulated but also help make innovations and embed into the existing infrastructure and things such that it's not costly for a country, especially small country like Thailand, to leap forward. Otherwise, we are not that big country that any newcomer can start from zero and still plenty of market.
Exactly.
So how can we let the regulator help enable us to leap forward?
100% to support you on what you say. I think from the very beginning, as part of Project Orchid, we've been setting out the vision here that this really needs to be non-disruptive in the user experience to the end user if we really want mainstream adoption. And that has been what we've been pushing since that. I think the interaction that we have, the end user would think that they're just paying with Thai baht. It's just an e-money experience that they're very used to for the last 10 years. The merchant on this hand would think that this is Grab Pay. They don't have to be retrained and there will be no new settlement guideline or new commercial itself. That kind of rollout is what we think will bring the next generation of the mainstream adoption that's coming itself. That's super in line with what we're thinking, and I hope to do more with you on Project Bloom itself. So maybe now on the lighter note, there's a lot of interesting questions the guys have put up for Quickfire round, which a lot of guys like to know more. So you can just tell me whatever you off your heart or mind. So when hiring, is it harder to find an engineer who truly understand finance or a banker who understand blockchain?
Finding the right person is always challenging. but if you feel that you are in the right track, it means that you are chasing the right pool of person. So you should feel that finding or hiring the right person is challenging. If your business unit or if your companies feel that easier to find the right person, something wrong. But the more challenging is not about finding the right person, but how can we enable them to execute at their full potential? We have seen a lot in the past, for example, or some banks that we acquire the talent with high pay salary, but they get to the bank into the same old environment under the same, I would say, old regulation, and they feel that they work for like a year, 2 years, 3 years, and it's not executed at their full potential, and they leave. They leave not because you are not good paying, but they leave because they cannot make impact. I think that is the key point. And if we can enable them to make impact,
exactly,
they will finally find their friend actually to help them execute more. And that's why we as a bank, KBank, we are not just doing banking business today for current year income statement.
Yeah.
But we try to find the new way, new things. And then that can motivate the new pool of talent to get in. Maybe we do 10 projects, but maybe 8 of them, maybe we have to stop later, but it's fine. The people is our asset. The people that have that experience to work, to try, even fail, and then try again. These are the assets that we have. So how can we make sure that they are motivated to execute at their full potential?
Oh, in that, we share a lot of common ideas of this itself. I think that part of the company culture that I've set up is that we want people who are obsessed with what they do. They are doing this because they really like to do something. The pay, of course, is important. We're not saying that you don't need the pay, but if you're just coming here just for the pay itself, I think it won't last long here. And especially in the field that we are in, where it's a regulated field itself, it takes years before the result is shown. Like we've been joking about it, that people think that we launched XSGD last year, but we just celebrate 5 years anniversary. Right? So it has been 5 years of us digging and trying to make this a real world impact itself. So maybe moving on itself, given that you talk about this as a traditional banker for so many years itself, what is one thing that you think will completely be gone and be disrupted by this technology in the next 5 years? And you'll be happy to talk about this.
There are many things that start to obsolete. For example, we have a service in the past we call the messaging. So if you make some financial transactions, that will be a message from our bank to you saying that, okay, you have made that transaction and the remaining balance is whatever. Believe it or not, people like it. we get almost 10 to 20 million US dollars every year on this service. People pay just about like $1 per month. We get that, but it's declining. Yeah. But there's still some customer using that, and we try to migrate them to be a easier mobile banking notification, and it's free.
Yes,
believe it or not, some of them still insist on paying that $1 per month. They want the real SMS from the bank to notify them. But what I have to say is that there will be some services that will be reduced, will be less and less important. It just when is the right moment that we terminate that transaction or that services. Like this SMS, I think we plan to terminate this service very soon, even though we still get a lot of income from that service. But we don't think it's good for the customer. Exactly. So what I try to say is that it's not about technology disruption. It's our conviction that we see if there are better service for the customer, better rate, even free, we try to migrate customers to use that better service, free service, whatever. Don't stick with the old one. It's just the timing that when customers are ready, we stop that and they get a better service, a freer, cheaper service.
Yeah, and now with blockchain, they can actually see a lot of transaction live and don't need us to actually have an external notification to validate that itself for them. Maybe switching gear a bit, last time around I was in Thailand, Bangkok. Thanks for hosting me, for the nice food that you brought me out. I love Chatuchak Market, night market. There's a lot of good food over there. But we are Singaporeans. Our favorite thing is about food. So this is going to be a pretty dangerous question, right, for you. Like when you land in Singapore, what is the local food you will try first? Okay, this one you have to be ready for the repercussion.
I like this question a lot. Better than our previous one. This one, think about this lunch. Actually, I get there and the must eat dish for me every time I get to Singapore is young tofu. Niang tofu.
Niang tofu. Okay.
Niang tofu. I really like it.
Wow.
I'm the person who like to eat tofu. And then it's self-service. You can select what you like. And then it's affordable. And then you can customize, right? Dry and soup, and you can get some different type of sauces.
Yes.
I like this, and it's mimic the future of finance as well. It means that customers should have the right to mix and match to their own preferences. So personalization is also the key. How can we make sure that they have right variety, but we are not the one who pre-package and force sell the product to them. They have their choice to mix between whatever they like. And then at the end, they can even put their own flavor, personalization on the type of sauce, whether you like the laksa type of, or you want the mala type of flavor, whatever. But I think this is the same thing, that how can we make sure that they get the right product, they can mix their own, and they even put their own flavor.
Wow, this coming from you, because I know Dr. Karin is multi-talented. And for folks that doesn't know, he's actually a professional chef too. The last time Rao was in Thailand, he was explaining to me almost in details how every dish is being made. In some sense, I was a bit apologetic because to me, I think there are two kinds of people in the world, according to my wife, like those who live to eat, those who eat to live. And I was telling him I fall in the second camp. Whatever that's in front of me, I will just eat it. But like the dedication you just explained into this makes a lot of sense to me. And thanks for wrapping this up about talking about how this is going to affect the future of finance. So thank you very much for being here with us, and thanks to the audience for listening in. Thank you, Dr. Karin.
Thank you.
Looking forward to more of our partnership. Thank you.
Thank you.